listen, this is not some corporate-owned operation. It's family-owned and operated by some real nice people. Unique? Oh, you bet. Golden Bear Cottages features 28 one-of-a-kind cabins on a 5-acre historic site. Great for families, couples, and groups. And cabins are available with 1 to 7 bedrooms. Golden Bear Cottages is just a stone's throw from Big Bear Lake and super close to 3 great ski areas. Now, I could go on all day about Golden Bear Cottages in Big Bear, but to see everything, just go to goldenbear.net. Again, goldenbear.net. Golden Bear Cottages in Big Bear. Clean, comfortable, and affordable. Check them out. goldenbear.net.
Earth, sky.
The planet Mars has 2 moons. Jupiter has 66, Saturn 62, Uranus 27, and Neptune 13. But Earth has just 1, doesn't it?
Moons are defined as Earth's natural satellites. They orbit around the Earth. Although Earth sometimes has more than one moon, some objects you might have heard called Earth's second moon aren't, really. Let's talk about a non-moon first.
You might have heard of the word quasi-satellite. A quasi-satellite orbits the Sun in the same amount of time as Earth, but the shape of the orbit is slightly different. The most famous quasi-satellite is 3753 Cruigné. This object is 5 kilometers, about 3 miles wide. It's not a second moon. Instead, it's an asteroid co-orbiting the Sun with Earth.
Also, Earth sometimes has temporary moons. In 2012, astronomers at Cornell University published the result of a computer study suggesting that Earth usually has a temporary moon, or mini-moon, as they called them. Mini-moons would follow complicated paths around Earth for a while, then break free and begin orbiting the Sun again.
An object discovered in 2006 appears to fit this description. 2006 RH-120 was discovered in orbit around Earth, so it was a temporary second moon. But it began orbiting the Sun again 13 months later. For more, come to earthsky.org and search for the words Earth's second moon.
We're at earthsky.org.
How would you like to have a large portion of your credit card debt completely forgiven, both the principal and interest? National Credit Card Relief wants to give you free information that shows you how. Thousands of people have used this program to have their credit card debt forgiven. So call now for free information and consultation. We'll give you the secret to this money-saving program absolutely free. Get eye-opening information that could save you thousands of dollars a year or a month, depending on how much you owe. In fact, the more you owe, the more you can save. All you need is $10,000 or more in credit debt, medical bills, or department store debt to qualify. Call for free debt forgiveness information now at 800-546-2909. That's 800-546-2909. To discover the secret to having your credit card debt forgiven, call 800-546-2909. 800-546-2909. Don't wait, call now. 800-546-2909.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-643-9406. That's 1-800-643-9406. Again, 1-800-643-9406. Call now.
Do you have a broken window or rock chip on your vehicle that needs repair? Give us a call at HM Auto Glass, 951-858-5190. HM Auto Glass is your locally owned and operated auto glass specialist, offering low cost and high quality auto glass repair and replacement. We also work with all major insurance companies and offer free mobile service. So call us, 951-858-5190. That number again is 951-858-5190.
Other talk stations use words like savage. Sounds brutal. Yeah, Hey, it's all good. Your superstation. AM 1050, News Talk KCAA.
What have I learned so far? I've learned that dropping out of high school was my decision, but as a single mom, that decision affected more than just me. To set an example, I had to be the example. I found a free high school diploma program at Learn for Life that fits around my busy life. I have a team of teachers, tutors, and counselors that really care. I learn at my pace in an environment that is safe and comfortable. What have I learned so far? I've learned that I can change my life.
Are you 14 to 19 years old and looking for a free high school diploma program with flexible meeting times? This program allows you to keep your job or important family responsibilities while earning your high school diploma. If you've fallen behind on credits or dropped out of school completely, get back on track with free tutoring, a caring faculty, and one-on-one attention. For more information on how to reach your graduation goal, visit learnforlife.org. That's LEARN, 4, LIFE.org. Or enroll today by calling 877-360-LEARN. That's 877-360-LEARN.
The founder of a world-renowned symphony made up of children.
The Inland Empire's most heroic teacher.
The world-famous mixed martial arts hero, Baptiste Mansour.
The lady who's saving homeless kids in Redlands.
The Inland Empire has thousands of community, business, and kid heroes. Each week, we share their stories with you. Join us for My Awesome Empire and find out why the Inland Empire is so great.
Saturday afternoons at 5 p.m. on AM 1050 and KCAAradio.com.
KCAA.
Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's UBNradio.com.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa. To be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate, to live, love, laugh, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Fay on UBNradio.com.
And welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon out of the Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, California with Universal Broadcasting Network. And now every Thursday on my syndicated channel CNBC KCAA AM 1050 out of Loma Linda. And that's with my 7 o'clock. I knew there was something missing. 7 p.m. for your commute pleasure home. And it is PST time. So if you're on the East Coast, hello to all my listeners in New York and Philadelphia who said hello through Ben. Thank you so much. And peace and blessings to all of you also in Ireland and in India. Huge peace in and peace out shout outs to you. Thank you for tuning in all over the planet. And I know that the success of this show is simply because everybody is tired of the CNN constantly negative news or the gossip, the scandal, and the K words, Kardashian talk that goes on everywhere else. You're tuned in here to a show about hope and how to be happy 88% of the time. And today we have a really great topic. I've got the author here of a book called The Introvert's in Love. And it's a follow-up book to her other one, Introvert's Way. And her name is Sophia Dembling. She has been writing the Introvert's Corner blog for Psychology Today. She's also writing an advice column focused on introverts and relationships for a quiet revolution, a website launching in the spring of 2015 right now. And Demling is the author of 100 Places in the USA Every Woman Should Go and has won 2 Lowell Thomas Gold Medals for her travel writing. She lives in Dallas, Texas. So, without further ado, please welcome to the studio, Sophia Demling. Welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So introverts, let me see how close my definition of introverts, extroverts are. As you can tell, I am an extrovert on steroids. Although after reading some of your book, I think that I might have tendencies for a closet introvert, and we'll talk about that later. But how are you defining introverts?
Well, the definition we're most comfortable using is the idea that extroverts tend to gain energy from social interaction, from being out and about, from dealing with people, and introverts are drained of energy by that same sort of thing. And so what's interesting is that you might not necessarily be able to look at a person and say, that's an introvert, that's an extrovert, because many of us introverts, that is, I am one, are able to behave as extroverts. We can get out there and mix it up and go to parties, and I can speak in public. It's more about what happens afterwards and how exhausted we are by that effort. You know, I can go out and have a great time with a bunch of people, but then I need maybe a day of solitude to recharge.
Right, to balance out the energy spent.
Exactly.
Yeah. I use Myers-Briggs personality inventory, and their definition on that dimension, extroversion, introversion, is exactly as you're saying. Extroverts get energy from being in interactions, and introverts get energy from being in solitude. So now, for those people who say, well, I'm a little bit of both, it is a group difference. We're not stereotyping here, but there's an actual group difference, correct? That some people have a preference for one or the other.
Yes, exactly. And it all exists, like so much of our personalities, on a continuum. So there are going to be some people who are way over on one end or the other of the scale, but most of us fall somewhere in the middle of it. And you know, the closer you are to the middle, I think the more you would perhaps describe yourself as an ambivert, where you're more comfortable with either. But I think you'll find you fall somewhere along that scale.
Right. Well, last month I had someone read my charts and found out that I had 6 planets in Leo. Not only am I a Leo, I have 6 planets in Leo. So I think that qualifies more as an extrovert. So,
it must be.
Yes. And I love the fact that in your book you say this is written for introverts, not extroverts, because extroverts don't seem to have a problem expressing what it is that they...
That's right, although extroverts might find it useful to understand their introverts a little better. And even more so, I think the first book, Introvert's Way, which is sort of a Introverts 101. And I think it's a great way to learn about the qualities of introverts that sometimes are misunderstood.
Right. So let's go to that. Introverts are misunderstood in relationships. What would you say the top 3 misunderstandings are for introverts in relationships?
Well, it can be hard to know if an introvert is interested in you because they tend to not lay it all out there on the table. It can be hard to know when an introvert is upset. We tend to not be very confrontational, and so you sometimes have to sort of either draw things out or leave a lot of room for an introvert to process and then communicate things that are on their minds.
You don't call that passive aggressive?
It can slip into passive aggressive.
Okay,
absolutely.
So it isn't. That's a really important point, because I tend to assume, and I tell my clients all the time, drop out of MSU University, make shiitake up, because if someone's not addressing the conflict, they're not necessarily automatically a passive aggressive. And I got that from your book. So the introvert really does have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, but it's okay. The introvert might say, okay, the problem has been brought up. Now I need to go and think about it for a while, and before I can discuss it, we need processing time. We need deep processing time. But I then tell introverts, if you say you need that time to step aside and think about it, it's then your job to go and say, okay, I'm ready to talk now, and not expect the person to draw you out yet again. So it's sort of, we are allowed to do what we need to do to be most effective, but we also have to take responsibility for making sure that we're not pulling away.
Yeah, I like that balance, because it speaks to, some people come and say, well, that's just the way I am. I'm an introvert, and just if you don't like it, go find an extrovert. But it's not necessarily that way. So one of your chapters I love is, do introverts, flock, birds of a feather flock together, or opposites attract? So if you are an introvert, are more successful relationships from those who introvert with an introvert?
Well, that was very interesting to me, because really it doesn't matter. Introverts do great with introverts, and introverts do great with extroverts. Those are not really the deciding factor. There are a lot of introverts who really like having somebody who sort of pulls them out and draws them out of themselves, and perhaps does all the heavy lifting for a social life. That they'll make the friends and they'll get the invitations, and the introvert just gets to kind of ride along and enjoy that energy. Okay. There are other introverts who find that really exhausting, and they're happier with somebody who's going to stay home with them and going to appreciate the same kind of quietness that they do. And so really it's more knowing yourself and what you're looking at than deciding, because I'm an introvert, I have to have X or Y. So
both can be successful or unsuccessful.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So what are some tips that you give to extroverts who are drawn to introverts and then complain about the way the introvert is?
Well,
I'm not talking personally at all.
Well, the issues between introvert-extrovert couples, I mean, it's any relationship. You have to make these discussions explicit and say, hey, I need to be able to go out more. How do you feel about that? Or you're not going to change the person, and you shouldn't want to. And if it's unbearable, then it might be a mismatch.
Right.
But there are lots of ways you can sort of find to compromise. For example, an introvert-extrovert relationship, if the extrovert needs a lot more socializing than the introvert, then you have to agree that person can go out on their own, and not resent that. And at the same time, the introvert, no texting every 5 minutes, no calling, no passive-aggressive punishment because you feel neglected. It has to be an understanding that because we have these two different needs, we've got to figure out a way that both of us are getting our needs met. And that goes, of course, the opposite way, too. The extrovert has to agree to stay home sometimes and have that weekend of just watching movies or whatever it is the introvert needs to feel bonded and connected.
It sounds, it's that dreaded C word, compromise.
Lots of it.
Lots of it, right. So would you say it does take more work if it's an extrovert-introvert relationship versus the same?
I think that it takes a different kind of work. It definitely takes some explaining each other to come to the middle ground, and perhaps there's going to be some resentment, some push-pull for a while. This is a relationship. Introvert relationships have their own challenges. It's easy to sort of, because we tend to be non-confrontational, speaking in sweeping generalizations, but that's what I heard quite a bit from the introverts I interviewed for the book. It's kind of easy to keep sweeping things under the table and not deal with things. I had one woman who was married young to an introvert, and she said she felt that really, they were both introverts, contributed to the breakup of the marriage, and she's now married to an extreme extrovert. She says it's really a very healthy relationship. It's also easy for introvert-introvert relationships to kind of flatline, where they get so mellowed out and so kind of peaceful that it doesn't have real juice to it. And so, introverts might have to work a little harder to make sure they're staying connected and they're not just kind of, it's not a Quaker meeting of everybody sitting silently all the time.
Right. Yeah, I went to your page 107. I love your your introvert pickup lines from Twitter.
Yeah.
So let's transition from, relationships to actual dating. So an introvert dating, I'm not quite sure how to say this, so I won't. How about I go back to my place? I love that one. I wish I were an extrovert so it would be easier to talk to you. Now that's a very honest one.
That's a good one.
It is a very good one. Come here and sit quietly in a corner often.
I like that one a lot,
I love
too.
that one. Let's see. Hey, that's a great book, but you should keep reading it. And I'm really sorry I interrupted you. You look as uncomfortable as I feel, and I mean that in a good way.
That's a sweet one, too. That would work with me.
Hey, I noticed you noticing me, so I pretended to look at something on my phone. Oh, and this is my favorite, the last one. A little awkwardness is cute, right? Good. I'm about to be painfully adorable. So that's introverts dating, and this is one of those truly. I think when I'm attracted to an introvert, the number one frustrating thing is they'll look at me, they'll smile at me, and then they'll do nothing. And I don't want to have to say something first. I don't want to be, because in my mind, the BS going on, the belief system that doesn't work for me is that a man should be the one who starts up the conversation. And if he has any cojones at all, he's going to come over and, introduce himself. And so I've had to really not take it personally that when that happens, it could be truly a function of the comfort level of an introvert.
I think it's very likely, and it's a gender role that we're all always fighting against, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I had one guy who said, have mercy, please. It never gets old to have a woman come and talk to us, to talk to me.
Right.
I think women tend to be approached so much more and not always receptive because of that, that men might even have a little bit of an extra hurdle to go over. That a particularly, young, single, attractive woman, a guy may think, well, she's probably hit on all the time. So so if they're already slightly reluctant, then it's even harder. And so, I think that if you have the gift of extroversion and the gift of being able to speak to anybody, then it's a generous thing to use that. And quite a few of the introverts in my book who were with extroverts, who were in relationships with extroverts, were actually approached by the extrovert, and the extrovert kind of got things rolling.
Right.
And then once you get things rolling, if you can settle down a little bit and let the introvert have room to express themselves, they can be very good good dates, because they're very good one-on-one. They're really good listeners. They're good conversationalists when they're given the space to do it. So if you can just break through as an extrovert, you have that gift. You can open up all sorts of possibilities.
I just had a vision of Star Trek breaking through into new dimensions. Sounds like my dating life.
I call it the introvert leave me alone force field.
Perfect. That's so perfect.
And I talk to introverts as well about learning to let that down when they want to. It's a very functional thing to have, this force field, to protect yourself when you want to be left alone, but you also have to be able to let it down when you're in situations where you would like to meet people and would like to be approached.
Right.
And that means not looking at your phone.
Yeah. Or not sitting in the corner.
Not sitting in the corner, or even if you are sitting in the corner, uncrossing your legs and arms and looking around and thinking engaged, feeling engaged, puts out that energy of, I'm present in this group.
Right. If you're just tuned in, you are listening to some tips from the author of Introverts in Love. So if you're an introvert out there and you're you're looking to get into a relationship or making your relationship work better, this is the show for you. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. So, Sophia, on the introversion, how many in our population, do you have that stat? I meant to look it up. I ran out of time.
It's roughly half.
Roughly half
is what it appears.
Okay, so because I'm a little biased because I am the type A++ extrovert on steroids, that often my show, not my shows necessarily, or definitely my viewpoint, is when people cannot do something or choose not to do something, I pull out, the gospel according to Nike, just do it. And so I think that I'm getting a better awareness around that may work for the extrovert. It may not work for the introvert.
Well, one of the things I really like to emphasize, however, is the difference between shyness and introversion.
Oh, good.
And it's really they're mixed up a lot,
okay.
and they're very different in that introversion is motivation. It's how much you want to do these things, how much you want to go to that party or want to interact. Shyness is fear. You might want to do it, but you're afraid to. So you can definitely be a shy introvert, and I think there probably are a lot of us, especially since as introverts, we've been told we're doing it wrong for so long. You go to a party, I like to sit in a corner, and everybody says, that's the wrong way to party.
Right.
Well, no, it's not. It's my way to party. You can be a not shy introvert, which is what I am. I can talk to people and I can go to parties. You can be a not shy extrovert, obviously, and the people who have the hardest times are the shy extroverts because those are the ones who really want to interact and want to be out there but are frightened. And so when I talk to introverts, I say that really you want to pay attention to whether you're using your introversion, telling yourself it's introversion that's preventing you from doing things you want to do, because if it's that, then you might be looking at fear rather than introversion, and fear can be overcome. Introversion can't and really doesn't need to be.
Great distinction. I love when I learn something new. So because there are extroverts who that I work with who, because of the fear of failure or perfectionism, don't put themselves out there. So that sounds like the shy extroversion. Yeah.
Yep, it could be, or just we all have our terrors of success.
Right. Now you interviewed how many for your book, your study?
It was in the vicinity of 50.
In the vicinity.
Introverts.
And
single, married, newlyweds, old, long time, all different statuses.
Anything surprising to you as an introvert?
I guess really the one surprising thing to me was what we discussed early on, is that either kind of relationship. I thought for sure I would come up with, yes, you want to look for an extrovert, and yes, you want to look for an introvert. And I think that was really, for me, the most surprising. Otherwise,
you had felt all of it.
It made me think about things I hadn't thought about explicitly, and that it was all very interesting and very enlightening, but I can't say anything made me go, wow, it never occurred to me.
And what gave you this inspiration to even talk as an introvert and sort of, put the moose on the table, as I like to say, because I'm Canadian, and about the elephant in the room? What gave you that inspiration to begin to give introverts a voice?
Well, it sort of happened in an oddball way in that I as you mentioned, I'm a travel writer as well, and I read a book about introversion, a book called Introvert Power. I'll give it by Laurie Helgo, also another good book on the subject.
Okay.
And it kind of inspired me to write an essay for a website called World Hum, called Confessions of an Introverted Traveler. Because one of the things one hears as a frequent traveler is that meeting people is the reason to travel, and if you're not meeting people, then you're not, really traveling.
Right.
And
you're
my
doing something
essay
wrong.
Said, yeah, you're kind of cheating, or you're doing a lame job of it or something. And so I wrote about how, well, that's not really the way it is for me, and I talked about how I am as a traveler, and the essay just exploded. I wrote a follow-up of tips, and those were the two most read essays on that site for that year, 2007 it was.
Great.
And so when I started talking about Psychology Today about blogging, this was the topic I landed on. And again, it caught on very, very quickly. It was really clear that introverts were anxious for validation.
Yeah.
And of course, they're all at their computers, so it was perfect. and so it just sort of snowballed from there. And again, who knew I'd be a professional introvert?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And I mean, for 50% of the people, I guess it's about time. The extroverts have had no problem saying what's on their mind. It's about time that we balance things out.
Absolutely. And I think, and understanding what I hear more often than anything else, and I hear it from people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, is thank goodness I thought there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
relieved to hear this.
Yeah, I'm getting that now, not realizing how wrong our society makes introverts. I mean, I just got that as an awareness in this interview. So I apologize.
Well,
I
thank you.
apologize on behalf of the extroverts that I do represent.
And on behalf of the introverts, we thank you.
Yay! Let's have a group hug. We're good. We're at one again. We are whole. Introverts
Yin and yang.
extroverts. Yes, absolutely. I'm all about that too. So, can I ask you personal questions? Are you married?
I am married.
You are to an introvert or an extrovert?
He is introverted, perhaps a little less so than I,
Okay.
but also introverted. And here's a kind of interesting thing that can come up. I'm a writer. I work at home alone. He has a picture framing shop and deals with people all day long. And so we're having to work out the fact that he comes home at night and he doesn't want to do anything or talk to anybody or see anything. At the end of the day, I had enough alone time.
Right,
you know?
right.
And so I'm having to kind of make my own plans and get out by myself a little bit more because we just have different needs by the end of the day.
Right.
And even this is something coming up even in an introvert couple.
Interesting. You have to practice what you're teaching. Don't you hate that?
Yes, indeed.
That's why my show's called Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. That way I get it covered. That's wonderful. How long have you been married?
26 years,
Okay.
I think, this year. He's going to bop me on the head for never being able to remember, but somewhere in that vicinity. Wait. No, 20. Next year is our 25th. 2016 will be our 25th.
That's wonderful. So we'll let you make it up to him. Give him a love shout out right now and tell me what's the top 3 things that you love about him.
His sense of humor. Nobody can make me laugh until I cry like he can. He's very, very quiet and very, very dry, and he comes out with things that I can laugh for a day on one line of his.
That's wonderful.
He's very responsible. He takes care of stuff. And he's handsome.
Oh. Did you hear I heard the love there. That was beautiful. What's his name? Tom, you are loved. I hope you hear this little love shout out right now from your wife on the air. All right. So besides, so we're talking about dating. What are some tips that you tell introverts who would prefer? And I'm telling you this actually, my closet introverted side. I have to be honest with you. I deal with people every day, all day. And so I have 4 free days a month, Thursdays. And I'm a full-time mom as well of teenagers. And I try to practice what I teach. I tell all my clients and I tell my listeners, there's nothing like romance. There's nothing like relationships you can't get that kind of feeling from friendships or family. So have a relationship. a relationship a day will keep the doctor away. No, I'm kidding. But have a relationship. But I have to tell you that the free time that I do have, the best date I have is with myself. And that I can look forward to going home and, getting some my favorite takeout and sitting with a good movie that I may have missed in the theater. And I am getting to the point where I'm thinking that I don't need a relationship. And I read in your book that the statistic now from, let's see if I can find it, the doctor, here it is, Eric Klingenberg, that there are 5 million people in the U.S. between the ages of 18 and 34 who now live alone. By choice. By choice.
Yep.
So tell me about that.
Well, it's really interesting. It's a trend, and it's something in a way similar to introverts. The people who are single by choice are having to push against some really powerful stereotypes that they're lonely and that they're sad. And in fact, research finds that people who are not in long-term relationships, are not married, have a larger social circle. It's actually married people who tend to get a little bit more isolated. The people, I've interviewed one young man, an attorney, a very lovely, handsome young man, and he's just doesn't want to be married. He says, it's not like I sit at home every night. I go out all the time. I have close friends. I have a life. I just can't imagine having somebody there all the time.
So
he said that just the idea of having somebody pinging you all the time, even if you're in different rooms, is not comfortable for him. And I think that what we have to come to understand is that sort of day-to-day intimacy is not necessarily for everybody. I spoke to another guy who's in a long-term relationship, but they don't live together. And they're both fine with that.
Wow, that's interesting. And we'll have to come back and talk a little bit more about that. It is time to thank our sponsors who are making this show possible. So we'll be back in 2 and 2.
Have you ever had a sweet potato cookie? Be the talk of the holiday table with Yam Good cookies and 4 unique tastes. All sweet potato with either pecan, ginger pecan, pineapple coconut, even topped with almonds. Available in West LA. So follow us on social media and visit www.yamgoodcookies.com to order. A holiday treat launched in the season of Thanksgiving that will now be enjoyed all year long. So have a Yam Good holiday.
Do you suffer from neck or back pain? Then it's time for Casilia. Casilia is an affordable yet easy-to-use tool that is carefully engineered for wellness. Just 20 minutes a day can treat pinched nerves, back pain, neck pain, and much more. The manufacturers of Casilia are so confident that it works, it comes with a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee. You have nothing to lose but your pain and stiffness. Casilia is personally endorsed by Dr. Marissa. To learn more, visit www.casilia.com today. That's KACELIA.com.
And welcome back. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon on UBN, Universal Broadcasting Network, and every Thursday PST at 7 p.m. on NBC News Radio, KCAA AM 1050. And today we are talking about introverts with the author, Sophia Dembling, of Introverts in Love. And we just went to break talking about actually a good-looking lawyer. Where does he live?
I'm not telling. I don't want him chased down. Fermented.
Yeah. Well, you can give him my number.
All right.
Oh, I'm bad. So introverts and extroverts who are not actually interested in relationships. So my guess is that this is more from an introverted place, that introverts are more and more on the rise, the 5 million who are by choice not in a relationship, and or you said they live apart but they have a relationship. Tell me about that couple.
There's a very interesting blogger, Dr. Bella DePaulo, on Psychology Today, and she writes a blog about living single, about single by choice. And she says, she calls it living together apart, I think is what she said.
Okay.
And it allows people to, they're in committed relationships, but they keep their own residences. Maybe they've lived alone for so long they don't want to combine households. This guy who I spoke to for my book had already been in 2 marriages that hadn't worked out, and he felt his need for solitude contributed to that. And
the lawyer?
He decided, well, this is fine.
The lawyer?
No, this is
okay.
the guy who's in the relationship where they live separately. The lawyer is not, as far as he dates a lot, but I don't know that he's in a relationship. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Sorry, I'm fixated.
But anyway, so
obviously.
he decided that he was not cut out for marriage, and the woman he's been dating in a relationship with for 5 years now is perfectly happy to maintain her own household.
Okay. Now, I actually, when I first started having relationships, had a thought that my perfect setup would be a big house, and I would have my room, and he would have his room, and then we would have one room that was joint.
Mm-hmm.
So does that make me an aberration or an introvert extrovert or what?
I don't have any data on that, but it works. It works for me. I mean, there are a lot of people who keep separate bedrooms for better sleep, and that was actually kind of common back in Victorian, Edwardian times.
Right.
And I know of couples who have duplexes, side by side apartments, and so they're sort of in the same vicinity. I think we all need our personal space, and I think that the pressure the pressure of togetherness can be really daunting for a lot of us.
Right, because there is that BS, that belief system that if you aren't in a relationship, there's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
absolutely.
usually the second question, first question is, what do you do? And the second question, are you in a relationship? And and I've actually had people say to me, when I say I'm not in a relationship, they're like, oh,
right.
That puppy look. And it's like, no, I'm fine. I have a lot of friends, but it is, there is, and I've been fighting this BS too, this belief system that if a relationship doesn't work out, then it's a failed relationship. And to me, that's like the biggest BS, because if you have a relationship that doesn't last a lifetime, that doesn't mean it's a failure. It's just a chapter in your book of romance. There's no good or bad. It just is a chapter, and you've learned something about yourself that you needed to learn that makes you a more expanded person. But that's just my viewpoint.
I couldn't agree more.
Oh, good. Thank you for that. So, for advice to extroverts who are dating introverts.
Mm-hmm. Give them room. You're going to feel like the most fascinating person in the world because introverts are really good listeners, but they might appreciate being drawn out. We're not likely to just kind of muscle our way into a conversation. And so if you find that you're doing all the talking and you're doing all the planning and you're doing everything, it may be that they want you to be that way, but it may be that they're just a little bit overwhelmed and don't really know how to work their way into it. So every now and then kind of take a step back and make a point of asking the questions, and they might just need a little more room. The other really, really important thing is that introverts need time on their own, not because they want to get away from you, but because they need time on their own. It's not a rejection.
It's not personal.
This is something that it's not personal. This comes up within families and in friendship and in relationships where introverts need to get away by themselves. They need to maybe not go to that party or not get together this weekend, and it's not a rejection. It's simply what they need to be healthy. I need to travel by myself. I love to travel by myself, and I would miss it terribly. And my husband, fortunately, he understands that. He gets that and even appreciates some time alone in the house while I'm traveling. So it's really important to understand that introverts are just getting what they need. They're not running away from you.
Right. And those kinds of expectations that extroverts have of introverts, or extroverts have of anyone, or introverts have, I think those are the expectations that get us into trouble in any relationship. That if you loved me, you would ... If you loved me, you would be happy to see me. If you loved me, you'd want to spend time with me. If you
Right.
loved me, you would tell me how much you loved me. If you loved me, you get my drift. So
I get it. And I think it works with the introverts. The introverts have to understand, too, that just because the extroverts need a lot of other people, that's not saying they don't need you. You know what I mean? It's,
Yes.
again, the extrovert has that need to have a lot of people and to have people around, and maybe you want every weekend to be just the two of you, but that's not fair to that extrovert.
So for my listeners who are extroverts who are in relationship with introverts, I would say the balance tool here, one is don't take things personally. If someone doesn't want to spend time with you, it has no reflection on you. It is what they need to feel happy 88% of the time. Second, I hear to be aware of how much airtime extroverts are taking, that in order to give the invitation for an introvert to interact, it would to give them the space and not demand the interaction immediately. Say something now.
Right. Well, that's a very important point when it comes to conflict. And I'm sure you're probably aware of John Gottman's research into the things that, conflict, how couples handle conflict is a really good indicator about how successful their relationship is going to be. And so I urge introvert, extrovert couples in particular to talk about what they need. Extroverts might need to just get it all out there and blurt it out. Sometimes it comes out more explosively or more emotionally than it is necessary, perhaps, or that might frighten the introvert. Whereas introverts need to get it out and then take it away to their cave and rummage through it a little bit and then discuss it. And so they need to be aware of these things, and so the introvert needs to be able to say, okay, I hear you. Now I need to think about it, and we'll finish talking about it later.
Yes.
And the introvert needs to realize that just because the extrovert is just spilling words all over the place, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. That is simply a way of expressing themselves, and
That's a
listen
great
to the
point.
words and step back from the emotion.
And extroverts need to remember what Dr. Phil says is you can't unring a bell. So
That's true.
When you spill with caution, because you can't take it back, unfortunately. So I had a question from my sound engineer. He says, what about people who are, one day they are extroverted, and then the next day they're introverted? So what advice do you have for the confused?
Well, I mean, to me, I would say that that would probably indicate a level of introversion, because again, we are able to get out there and put it all out there, and behave as extroverts. It's when you need to shut it down for a day afterwards in order to recuperate that would suggest you're an introvert. Extroverts can go and go and go and go and go.
Yes, Energizer
I have friends
Bunny.
on Facebook, and I just get tired even looking at their status updates. Where but if you do need to pull back, then you're probably falling a little more on the
introversion side. And then the follow-up question from my assistant producer is, is there a relationship between horoscopes and what sign you are and introversion and extroversion?
I don't know the answer.
Okay.
I don't know enough about horoscopes to
We'll
tell
have to
you
get
that, but
Rachel
I think that's a
back
cool
on.
question.
Yeah, just to see how the stars are aligned around that basis. So
now I'm a Gemini, and so, well, I guess that would mean I can be an extrovert, I can be an introvert.
Right,
I don't know.
right, yeah. There's no question on a Leo. We're just not even going to go there. So, and I loved what you said about it, who we are, that you can't change that, and there's no judgment on it. So accepting ourselves, if we're an extrovert, there are benefits and there are consequences to being an extrovert. As an introvert, there's benefits and there's consequences. But I agree with you that I think our society has really put a value judgment that extroverts really get the more of the attention, more of the time, more of the toys, and that if you are to be successful, you have to become extroverted. And it is I don't know if that's fair or not, but if you want fairness, go to Pomona. We have a county fair named Pomona over here. But I do know that many of my clients who are introverted have learned how to be and act in an extroverted way, which you have too. I mean, you absolutely, because of, you can write a book, but if you don't promote the book, no one knows about it.
Exactly.
Right.
I call it my dog and pony show.
Yes.
I could put on my dog and pony show.
Right.
And, I think what you're saying about the sort of prejudice towards extroversion is one reason that you'll see, if you go and look online about introversion and introverts, you'll see some pretty angry introverts. There's sort of a pressure release going on right now.
Okay.
Of negative energy towards extroverts that I think will balance out for a little eventually. But right now, it's like finally we're getting our voice, and some voices are angry.
that release, that pressure valve.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's interesting, actually. That is a big shift. Also, I call it the nerd's revenge. So in the past, those in technology have been labeled as nerdy or, socially awkward. And now the revenge is, if you are technically savvy, you are the king. If you know what you're doing there's a real shift. I like to see it. I like to be able to call it the balance, which is what I'm all about. But now we're balancing out where there's not some things that are better than others, but it's all good. They are all beautiful qualities that and individualized and unique wherever you are. So I think that's really awesome. So we can get your book where?
Amazon and independent bookstores and Barnes and Noble and wherever you shop for books.
All right.
It should be available. And if it's not, ask them for it.
Yes, that would be good. I'm holding up your book right here. It's a beautiful cover, by the way. Did you do that cover?
I love the cover.
Did you?
No. It was I had the same artist for both covers, and I absolutely adore it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see the name here. Lisa Amoroso, cover design. Front cover illustration.
She did the design, and I'm blanking on the name of the illustrator.
Kuhn.
Yes,
Jesse Kuhn. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, just a wonderful. It just seems to me to capture the sort of sweetness that I wanted. That I would have wanted if I could have done it myself.
Yes. So Introverts in Love: The Quiet Way to Happily Ever After by Sophia Dembling. So get yours at Amazon. And because I am being called the very honorable moniker of the Asian Oprah because of all my past Oprah guests and winning some awards, my Asian Oprah giveaway today is a free copy of Introverts in Love. So if you are the first one to go on either LinkedIn, Facebook, or my website, the number 4 balance.org, you will get a free signed copy by Sophia. So don't delay. You can multitask, and if you're an introvert, you're probably watching this on the computer, then you can go and grab one first. I guess I should qualify and have the introvert win if I get a tie. Whoever's the introvert gets the book. How's that?
How do they prove it?
How would they prove it? Yeah, that's a good question. What is a checklist? For those of you who are wondering if you're an introvert or an extrovert, the number one thing you said is you get drained in social circumstances or with a lot of people. What are some other qualities that people would be able to self-diagnose as an introvert?
Oh, gosh. Boy, that's a tough... you might be able to go to parties, but you would rather sit and watch than participate.
Okay.
We tend to really enjoy watching.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to be sort of deep thinkers, slow thinkers. We get into our own heads a lot. About, I would say, 87% of us really hate the telephone. We don't want to talk on the phone. Pretty much any form of communication rather than the telephone.
Okay.
We really do like people very much, but we prefer them one-on-one or maybe small groups to large groups of people. And those are some of the biggest
Yeah.
The biggest ones, I
Interesting. My friend qualifies, the one that was here for my horoscope. She definitely qualifies with that. So I am about out of time. So is there any advice, one last piece of advice that you would like to give to an introvert and an extrovert when it comes to happily ever after?
Know yourself, know what your thresholds are, know what you need, and then as with any other issue in a relationship, if you can talk about it and put it out there, then introversion, extroversion should not interfere with your happiness as a couple.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sophia, for joining me on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. You are an illuminating guest. Thank you for helping the introverts around the world express their uniqueness. And extroverts out there, listen up.
Well, thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Good. Thank you so much. Peace in and peace out to you. All right. It is at the end of the show where I ask you to step up to my balance bar. And what do we have today? I just did the Asian Oprah giveaway. So the next thing to do is to talk about what is going on in May and June. I am going to be teaching on the beach, so stay tuned for the exact dates. I'm going to be giving a workshop on balance Tai Chi Gong, which is a cross between Tai Chi, oldest martial arts form, and Qigong, which is the medical side of health-related exercise. And it's 18 forms, and it's a moving meditation that promotes inner peace one breath at a time. So please do contact me. We are organizing small groups all around Southern California area. So if you'd like to be part of that, please do contact me. And it does help with all health vortexes, body, mind, spirit, soul, particularly the critical mind. So if you're suffering from the voice in your head that beats you up every time you turn around, then this is a class for you. Next week, we are in that time of the month. It is the call-in episode where I get to be the other moniker of mine, Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura. And if you are interested in signing up to get free balance tune-up of your life tires and a smog check of your belief systems, please do contact my assistant producer, Jarvis Essex. And you can find him on Facebook, as well as just contacted me at forbalance.org and put in Jarvis, and we'll get you on that list. And that's it for today. Tune in next week for another fabulous episode of Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI. And remember, it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out.
Learned to cry at an early age. People around me, my heart in a cage. It was a book, don't turn.
Down to Earth Talk, a show designed to inspire, encourage, build, and bring laughter to listeners. Down to Earth Talk, where we take everyday topics and issues and put them into practical, down-to-earth terms. Topics include relationships, parenting, finances, sports, and entertainment. That's Down to Earth Talk, Saturdays 5:30 p.m. right here on KCAA 1050 AM.
Don't miss A1 Al Palazzo talk about San Bernardino every Tuesday at 4 p.m. It's live, local, and right down the block on KCAA 1050 AM.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Do you have a broken window or rock chip on your vehicle that needs repair? give us a call at HM Auto Glass, 951-858-5190. HM